Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I kind of want to talk about something that many of you may consider to be a more superficial thing or an issue that revolves around a very small number of people overall, but it's more widespread than you'd think. And this is the kind of curse of being beautiful. Now I'm obviously not talking about myself here. Just want to make that clear. I've looked better, I've looked worse, I'm somewhere in the middle, but at the same time I'm more used to playing the role of someone's ugly reflection as part of the coaching thing, where it's the coaching process where I'm very much sat down. They're telling me something, and I'm being the ugly truth in the mirror for them. So I'm used to being the Sasquatch in the mirror that you probably only ever otherwise see first thing in the morning after a rough night. So, I'm not talking about, well, camera, focus, thank you. I'm not talking about myself here. But what I am saying is that after a couple of recent conversations with people who are objectively kind of an analytical fashion, attractive people, conventionally beautiful people, highly symmetrical, of ideal weights, with curves in all the right places, or washboard abs, or whatever it is the they have in particular. The conventionally attractive and for the most part largely ideal body type for people, to one extent or another, that you would see in most media, to be fair. Um, Having a conversation with a couple of people that conform to that kind of stereotype, there are a few things that I kind of want to raise, not necessarily on their behalf, but as points of interest. And it's also something to keep in mind, because often guys and girls who are maybe less confident, or who do not consider themselves to be particularly attractive, will sideline themselves because, and I've talked about this before, they think that an attractive person is outside their league. They aren't close enough or similar enough in terms of their perceived level of attractiveness or perceived social status or something to that extent, that puts them in one category and this other person that they are biased towards in the first place because they like them in a different category, and there's this line down the middle that cannot be crossed. This is isolating for the people who are attractive. It can also be isolating for anyone that is put into various boxes, but in this particular instance, there is a thing that lots of people say, especially pickup artists and dating coaches and things like that, that lots of people usually scoff at, which is usually a case of, oh, beautiful people are usually as isolated because people are intimidated. They don't want to go and talk to them. Those people, just because they are physically attractive, does not necessarily mean that they are more confident. It does not necessarily mean that they are less likely to be alone. And so it becomes a case of going, yeah, that's actually true. Because also, think about it this way. When it comes to an attractive guy in a group of guys, who is more likely to get neutered? Your friends are going to neuter you anyway. News flash to guys in particular here. If you're going out with a group of friends and you're coming across some attractive people that you would like to engage with, your friends are going to keep you on the same level as your friends. They are specifically going to keep you as part of the pack. There is going to be ridiculing, there is going to be knocking you down, there's going to be you maybe giving as good as you get, but what it comes down to is you are going to be kept at their level. You aren't going to stand out. They are going to neuter you. The stereotypical cock block, but possibly without you even realizing it's going on, because it's in such a common and friendly fashion that it doesn't stand out. And in that regard, yeah, the attractive guy who may very well get much more attention is probably going to be the guy that might not be bullied, but is going to get knocked down a few pegs to keep him on the same level as everybody else to one degree or another. It's just social dynamics. But then when you look at women, and we see this online more than anywhere else, like I think it was, last year before, when it was Twitter that was demonstrating how an awful lot of the negative comments towards women on Twitter are from women. and all of the feminist kind of spin on, oh, you shouldn't be knocking down your sisters in arms, you should be raising them up. And it's like, yeah, but we don't work that way. We want to keep people on the same level. And if you are attractive to an extent that you are far outside of the norm, then there's a good chance that others are going to target you because they want to make sure that you aren't going to take the piece of the pie that they might want. And this happens a lot. This happens an awful lot in regards to bullying in schools, especially girls' schools. And it stands out in this particular instance around attractiveness. You know, bullying happens everywhere, and it's an unfortunate thing, and it isn't policed nearly as well as it should be. But in regards to based on it being based on attractiveness, it usually becomes a thing amongst girls rather than boys in this particular instance, and that can grow into attractive people who have been targeted in one way or another being shy, mistrusting of people, lacking in confidence about their own appearance. How many attractive people that you know that you look at and go, do you know what, they're gorgeous, they're absolutely fine, and then they go, oh, but I need to lose a few pounds, oh, I need to go back to the gym, oh, I look so fat in this, when they're as thin as a stick, if not kind of thinner maybe in some instances. You know, you have an awful lot of people that are like that these days, and it's troubling on so many levels, but also these people are being left lonely, and yet they are some of the most desired people. So why are they left lonely? Well, because people won't go and communicate with them, especially as adults. You know, people tend to settle, and there's one thing that I tell everybody, and that is don't settle. You know, it might be really difficult to not settle, but wait until you find, especially in regards to relationships, I mean, you shouldn't really settle for anything that's subpar, really, but especially in regards to relationships, considering they are so important to us as a species, both individually and in the grander scheme of things, don't settle. Look for the thing that will work. Look for the thing that you want. And there has to be an element of realism in that, but if you see someone that's gorgeous to you, go and talk to them. Go and interact with them. Go and say hi. Because hi is usually the best opening line ever. Just going and saying hello. And I wanted to touch on this for the sake of the couple of people that I've been talking to recently that I feel fit into this category. But also just for the sake of going, everybody's got their own problems. It doesn't matter if you're attractive or unattractive, if you're very intelligent or struggle with the most simple things. There are problems that permeate all of life, and we never fully understand the full list of problems that other people have. In which case, being reasonable, taking note of the things that you like and dislike about people, fine, but when it comes to interacting with them, put all of it aside as best you can and just interact with them based on what they say, what they do, and who they make themselves out to be. Because that way, if you find someone who's absolutely gorgeous and amazing, then maybe you'll actually go and talk to them. Same with people who are attractive, who find themselves in this situation where they're feeling isolated, where they're feeling locked away for one reason or another. Treat everybody the same. Just because they don't conform to a standard that you maybe hold to yourself, fine, but you don't know what their standards are, who they are, what their life has given them, what they do. So go and interact with them the same way that you would want to be interacted with. Simple, straightforward, relatively easy, fairly low energy expenditure involved. You know, don't go out of your way to make life miserable and upsetting for other people. Always look to help people out or make it better, because that's what you would want people to do for you, right? And when it comes to attractiveness from a very superficial standpoint as well, exactly the same applies. You would like people to come and talk to you find you desirable, find you interesting, well, fine. So if you see someone that is desirable and interesting to you, go and say hi. Because hi can mean anything from the beginning of a friendship to much, much more. Always go in just looking to make someone else's day better. That's all I kind of had to say about this, guys. It was kind of a thing where after a couple of conversations that I've had, it kind of stood out as a thing that I've kind of maybe touched on lightly in some of the dating videos that I've done in the past, but it's not something that I've expanded on, and I kind of felt like I wanted to, just because, again, there are so many people who have so much to offer, and so many people who I know who've just written themselves out of the dating race, written themselves out of various relationships and various interactions, even based on their own self-perception, based on the fact that they're worried about other people, and it's unfair on them. You know, they might not be the most attractive of people in a conventional sense, but that doesn't mean that they've got nothing to offer. And when it comes to attractive people, there are some people who I've known, since school, who were kind of the attractive girls in the year or something like that to one extent or another, that have then only gotten more attractive as they've grown and as they've matured into adults. And yet some of the things that I see from them on social media or from when I meet up with them in person, they're lonely, they're miserable, there's a gap in their lives, and it's kind of sad, just because, yeah, they might have been unattainable at one point, and they may very well have been made themselves appear unattainable in various ways as well for improved social status or whatever else. But when it comes to the long run, people get lonely, people get sad, people want companionship. So, you know, it's sad to see those people who maybe have worked very hard to keep themselves in good nick, as it were, then kind of falling short just because they've done too good a job, or because other people perceive them as too outside of what they feel they can attain. But anyway, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You know, it's a case of just, there are some sad situations that occur just as a result of the way that we are as human beings, you know, and it leaves people who are outliers, be they high intelligence people or low intelligence people, or highly attractive people or highly unattractive people, people who are very, very exceedingly capable, or those people who are relatively disabled. It leaves the extremes in these isolated kind of little boxes, and it can be very hard to find companionship, to develop yourself and stretch out beyond yourself, and especially a social sense, when you find yourself in those positions and in those places. The world is built for the kind of middle of the bell curve, and anyone that's on the outlying edges has a harder time to one extent or another, with the possible exception of people who have money and people who don't have money. That's very much slanted in one direction. But anyway, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and possibly your experiences if you're willing to share as well. You know, everything that you share in the comments is something that someone else might be able to learn from. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found it interesting or useful, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.